determined, and ready to do the work of the Liberian people. So I'm energized.
I understand that you're making some media rounds.
Yes.
But I also understand that you traveled to Ivory Coast. How was the trip?
Well, we had a really, really great experience. It was a platform for knowledge sharing. And like in Liberia, we will say comparing notes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that event occurs every year, and we call it the General Assembly of the Africa Road Maintenance Fund Association. So all of the countries in Africa gathered, in a designated country area to discuss issues surrounding the operations of road funds.
Okay.
So that was a great meeting.
Okay, let's start with knowing who Madam Joseta Neufville Wento is. Sometimes, and we'll also understand the workings of the National Road Fund. But let's start with your professional background.
Well, I am Joseta Neufville Wento. I am a minerals and energy economist, a graduate master's from the Colorado School of Mines. Prior to that, I obtained my Bachelor of Science degree in economics with emphasis in accounting from the Cottington University in Bond County, magna cum laude. And then, of course, my high school was J.J. Roberts.
Okay.
So that's just my educational background, along with other professional certificates, including a bridge maintenance certificate from the International Road Federation, procurement, and the rest. But I started my professional joining as far back as 2008, when I started off as a data clerk at the Ministry of Planning and Economic Affairs, where I served as a data clerk, and we were responsible for importing of the registration data across the country. And that information that was imported into the statistical data bank of the country was used to make policy decision.
Okay.
After that experience, I was fortunate to be recruited as a special recruit because there's the President Young Professional Program has a period that they recruit every year, and they had recruited the class 3.
Okay.
But then Madam Sirleaf approached the program and said she wanted 4 exceptional young people to work directly in her office.
So you from the PYPP?
Yes, I am. I am a class 3. We are called the special recruits from class 3. We were supposed to be 4. But we were exceptionally smart, so they took 6 of us in that cohort. So that's where I migrated to, and then I started working as a young professional in the role of a program assistant to Madame Sirleaf's office. So on a bi-weekly basis, we would brief Madame Sirleaf and President Boyka on the status of the 5 key areas we were focusing. At that time, I was focusing on the energy, and then later on I migrated to the road infrastructure sector. This was around 2012. So I served in a road for a little over 2 years, and then I was fortunate to get a fully funded scholarship by NOCAL to study to obtain a master's, and then I obtained a master's in minerals and energy economics. I worked a little bit in America, the DC business group as an energy regulator. And then I had the urge and the need to come back home and contribute to my country. So upon my return to Liberia, I was fortunate again to work with the Ministry of Public Works, with the then Minister Julie Moore, and then later on Minister Mabutu Yimpan, which gave birth to the establishment and the operationalization of the National Road Fund Office. So that's how I, flow through government. So a little over
the ladder professionally.
Professionally, yes, I have always been a technician, still am. That's why, the media rounds is a bit of a new field, but yes, we have to do it. So all along, I've been a technician in the background, writing policy, and doing the work. But this time around we are in the driver's seat, and we want to use this opportunity to make our maximum impact.
Yeah. I wonder if you've encountered some challenges along the road. One particular challenge is the issue of the fact that you're young, a young woman, claiming a ladder professionally, encountering, competing with your male counterparts. Do you sometimes, have you been looked down upon in some areas that, number one, you're young and you're female?
Well, that has always been a challenge. And thankfully, the President's Young Professional Program has training that prepare us for these kinds of challenges and obstacles as we progress. So yes, I've had it. Most of the times, I am the only female in the room with a lot of male counterparts. And most of the times, I am quote unquote one of the youngest, if not the youngest in the room. But I do make sound decision based on my level of work experience and my own personal knowledge and skills that I have acquired over the years from my mentors, supervisors, and bosses. So yeah, that has been some issues, but we are prepared to overcome them.
Yeah. So let's get into the road fund. First of all, tell us, you've already said how the road fund was birthed. How does it operate? What do you do as head, as manager of the road fund?
So a little information there is the National Road Fund was established in 2016. It was not until 2018, under the leadership of His Excellency, former President George Weah, that it was operationalized. And the Road Fund has been into operation for a little over 5, going to 6 years, just a rough time frame there. So how we operate. So we were established, first of all, for the sole purpose of maintaining roads and bridges across the country. And work with the associated programming and planning, that relates to road maintenance and bridges. And also in the act, we had established sources of funds generation. Now, Liberia, fortunately, since our operation, we have only been able to utilize one source, a single source. And that source has been the fuel levy. So on average, from when we started to about last year, we have been counting roughly between $20 to $26 million per year, as revenue generation just from fuel levy. And then of course we have the vehicle registration, driver's license, foreign vehicles traveling within the country, axle load. These are all revenue generation points that we are working on the regulations, working on the policy right now as I speak to roll this out. So in the coming months, you will hear me a lot more on radio trying to provide some sensitization and education to our road users as well as the taxpayers, so that they understand that the money that they are paying for their roads, they are getting the value of their money. So we'll be coming back also to that. So that's how the road fund work in terms of fund generation. Now the road fund has statutory body that is by law. These people govern the affairs of the road fund. That is the Minister of Public Works, who serve as the chairperson of this committee. It is called the Interministerial Steering Committee. And I'm directly supervised by the Minister of Finance. And then we have the Minister.
Is it different from a board?
No.
Okay.
So is the board, but we don't call it the board.
Okay.
The act gave it that nomenclature as the Interministerial Steering Committee, but they have the oversight responsibility. They approve, they review, they supervise the workings that we do. And then, as I was saying, we have the Minister of Commerce as a board member, the Minister of Transport, and the Minister of Internal Affairs. So these 5 ministers is not the individual, it's the ministers that operate in that seat serve as board members. And that's how we are governed. So we meaning I, as the secretary, report directly to the board on any and all of the decisions that we want to make. So that's how the road fund works and operate. Most people have this confusion
Yeah.
that because it's a fund, it should be chaired by the Minister of Finance. No, it is not. It is chaired by the Minister of Public
Okay.
Works. Yeah.
But in your operations, you also do maintenance of road, or you fund the maintenance of road. What is what? Because I'm kind of think whether you are different from the Public Works Ministry, so that your operations don't mingle into what the Public Works Ministry does.
Yeah, thank you. So we are a fund.
Okay.
We are responsible to look for money and fund the projects.
Okay.
Okay. So for example, like back in 2015, 2016, somewhere around there, when we started with the road sector reform, we were supposed to have two products coming out of that reform. The first one is the road fund that we have now, and the next one is the road authority. So the road authority now will transition to being the implementers. They will award the contracts, and then they will follow up on the road and supervise and ensure quality. And then the road fund will fund the road.
projects.
So all of the roads work in the country. Anybody want to do anything with road that have a money donor, private investor that wants to put money in the road should work with the road fund. That's how it is. That's how it is set up. And then the Ministry of Public Works now would then transition to a regulator. But we were fortunate to just launch the road fund, and now we are working on the road authority. Yes.
So when that happens, when the road authority is established, what do you think will happen to our projects? I mean, is it going to make any difference in infrastructure development of the country?
So just to give a little bit of background, the reason why this is broken up into the pieces is because initially we had the Ministry of Public Works as the generator, the reviewer, and the approver of projects. So now we are designating them to specific tasks. You can be the referee and the player at the same time. Okay, so the road authority have their own authority to look at these roads work, make sure that they are done to quality and standard. And then we as a fund, every year, they send us a proposal like, road fund, these are the roads we want to do. And then we evaluate those roles and then, of course, adopt, those ones that we think have some economic implications, and then forward it to the board, who then do the additional approval before we disperse funds. Yeah. So that's the intent. Public Works cannot be giving contract and at the same time paying, for the roads. And then also we intended to have a designated fund, just aside from the regular revenue that is generated for government for all the other issues that the government has to take care of, to just be focused on the maintenance of roads and bridges across the country. Mind you, just a little statistic there. The bridges that we have, they're very old. Most of the bridges we have were built in 1930. Some of them were built in 1970. Some of them in 1950. And over the years, in our protracted civil war and everything, we haven't had a proper system in place for the maintenance of those bridges. I think there was one time, the bridge in Bassa, we had a serious issue there. And, going across the country, we are noticing some issues with some of our major bridges.
That now, they outlived their usefulness.
Yeah, but then they lack maintenance too. They lack maintenance. So, all of these things were considered. And then they said, okay, let's establish this fund that will clearly be used for the maintenance of this work. So we do maintenance, we do rehabilitation. Yeah.
And the fund, does it go through the Public Works Ministry or the contractors themselves?
Okay, so since it's fun, I'll just give a historicity so everyone understand. So every time you buy a petroleum product,
Yeah.
the government of Liberia tax you 30 cents on every gallon that is purchased. Okay. That 30 cents is collected by the Liberia Revenue Authority, and that money is deposited into the consolidated account. And then I, as the row fund manager, make a request to the Minister of Finance to transfer that money from the consolidated account to the National Row Fund escrow account at the Central Bank of Liberia. So that process over the last 5 years, we've realized that it had a lot of issues. And that is also contrary to what the National Rural Fund Act states. Because the National Rural Fund Act states that all funds collected and generated by or for the National Rural Fund must be deposited into the fund account.
Of the row fund.
Into the fund account. So it should be deposited directly to the row fund. And not into the consolidated account.
Okay.
So we have been working with the board to make this adjustment. Yes, to make this adjustment because, mind you, we also have the PFM law that states that all of government revenue that is generated and collected by LRA must be deposited into the consolidated account. Now, the thin line here and what we are studying, and we will come up with that argument, is that the row fund is not just any fund, it's a designated fund. And the PFM law has some provisions, I don't know it offhand now, but I've come across it, that designated funds should be treated differently.
Okay.
So that is the engagement that
and
we
the row fund falls within
the designated fund.
those considerations.
Yes.
Okay.
So we are being optimistic and we are intentional about moving the road fund money from the government into the designated account. So as LRA collects, they put the money directly into the account. And of course that account is audited, periodically. Yeah.
So, your stewardship, let's look at some of the reforms. There are a lot of them, especially the channel through which the fund should go to the row fund. That's one of your, priorities area to rectify that.
Yes.
But let's look at some of the reforms you've brought to the row fund since you assumed the leadership there.
Thank you. I have always been a person that is meticulous and intentional with capacity development and improvement. So the National Road Fund is a new office, and as such, we haven't done this before. This is our first time. So yes, we have some staff there, that have some core competence and skills, but it doesn't properly align with what we are supposed to do as a fund. So upon my assumption to office, we looked at the entire staff capacity and we did an analysis of the capacity, from the annual appraisal as well, and then the performance of the staff. And we recommended some, capacity development in terms of training, both locally and internationally, to get staff at least up to a acceptable standard. And we are still doing that because it's a process. It is gradual. So we are doing that. So currently we see that our staff now have the opportunity to go to Tanzania and see what the Tanzanians are doing with the road fund, to learn about it, the procurement, performance-based contracting, road safety audits, and stuff like that, pavement designs and construction, climate change resilient roads. So those are some of the things that my people are looking at, and we are affording them the opportunity to travel. Okay. And then the next thing that we did is we look at the the national pool as a whole. I'm a young person, okay? And I have been fortunate to sit in this seat, and mind you, Liberia now, we have a very youthful population. We have about 48% of the population currently is between the ages of 0 to 18 years old. And we have an additional 47% that is between the ages of 18 to 60. We have only about 5% of our population that is above 60. So it tells you, just a rough estimate that we have close to 75% of our population that is youthful. And as such, we have to prepare the youth for taking over leadership. So in the first few months of my leadership at the National Rule Fund, we launched an internship program that ran for 3 months. In the internship program, we were able to attract about 25 young, talented engineers, that we were able to train and nurture. Some of them are with us now at the Role Fund. Some of them had the opportunity to remain with the institutes that we send them to, and they are learning.
Interns.
Yeah, they are with us as interns, but some of the institutes assume them under their employment status. They give them like full employment to work. So now we have a whole pool, of young professionals that have some level of experience. And these are the kinds of things that we want, because when you have a pool fund of talented and educated people, it becomes much more easier to have them placed into these technical roles. So we have been able to do that, and we accomplished that. I think I'm still working with a lot of the other young people that haven't found any opportunity, to source, outside opportunity and the likes. And we have also been able to regularize our financial reporting system. Prior to my leadership at the Rule Fund, a lot of things were dormant. We are, currently we have the National Rule Fund website that is up, and we have our current financial statement on it. So we ensure that every financial statement from the time that we operated is uploaded to the website.
Why is that?
Transparency. People have a lot of myth, and they have a lot of preconceived ideas on what happened in the Rule Fund, because we haven't really done a good work, ourselves, in terms of informing the public on how we operate and what we do. So it leaves rooms for, people to criticize and assume, and, with the assumption, negative propaganda and all of that. So currently, if you have your phone now, you Google www.nrf.gov.lr and you go on the website, on a report, you will see all of our reports. So we have been able to do that, and we have been able to periodically submit our quarterly reports to the Minister of Finance, as per the requirement of the PFM law. All of the government agencies and SOEs, and ministries that are responsible for funds disbursement should make a report, before the 15th of the month after the quarter. So we have been up to date with that. In addition, and a very key component has been, over the years, we were doing our financial reporting through Excel. So we have been able to transition to a cloud-based financial software. Is it for protection reason? It's for a whole lot of reasons. So first of all, we want, as a transaction is passed, it is passed, it is in the system, it is locked. You cannot go back and alter the transaction. Whereas when you are working in Excel, there's a possibility that you can go and make some changes and play with figures and do that. So we are doing this, tightening the screw, closing all of the loopholes to have a transparent financial reporting system. So even right now, as we speak, our 2023 financial statement is on the website. And what we do in our financial statement report, we do a supplementary disclosure. That means every single transaction that was passed, every money that was spent is listed, is reported on. That's what we do.
Who compares the financial statement? Is it the GSC? Is it done in conjunction with the auditors, or how do you do it? Who compares it?
So the first thing we do when the year completes, we put all of the statements together. We make our report, and then we make a request to the GSC. I think the GSC, by law, they should audit all of the ministries and agency. Yeah. So it is their statutory responsibility. So they come around at the end of the year, and then they do an audit of the year. So we complete our report and we upload it on the system. Then we have been able, which is the next step that I was going to, under my leadership, I have been able to request for a whole lot of different audits, starting first with the GSC audit. My predecessor had successfully done 2 audits of the road fund for just 2 years, and we have been in operation for a little over 5 years. So upon assuming this
so you have
role,
3 years left over.
I requested for an audit on that. I'm drawing the line. This is where I start from, and after this point, I'm responsible for everything else that happened. So we have the GSC currently at the road fund conducting our audit that we requested for. It's really seldom to see government, going to GSC and asking them, please come and audit us. And this was way before President Boyka came and, reinforce the statement of having, the audit done. So we were already on that path of getting, our financial statement audit. We are doing our tax audit. We are doing our employment audit through NASCO. In addition to that, in terms of what we have been able to achieve, is the work environment of the staff. We have been able for the very first time to purchase an office vehicle that will be used to assist the staff in the transportation to and from the office.
What's the number of staff you have?
Road Fund is a small office. We have about 20 staff, and we have 3 interns. So it's a very small office, 20 staff and 3 interns. So we have the bus there to facilitate that movement, and support the staff. What we are doing again this year is we are ensuring that all of the staff have their medical benefits. Over the last couple of years, that has been difficult to achieve. Now we are looking at, if you want quality out of, the people, if you want quality output, you have to prepare the environment that is conducive enough, and the people feel relaxed and they're excited and they come on board with innovation. So those are some of the things, just a few of the things that we have been able to do. Coming into this year, 2024, and some of the things that we have accomplished, the arrest agenda, the arrest agenda we have through our working with the technician at the Ministry of Finance, working with the technician at the Ministry of Public Works, Transport, and the house, the lower and upper house. We've been able to secure at least about roughly around 25% of what we generate as a fund to be used to buy earth-moving equipment for all of the 15 counties. So this is something that wasn't done before, but this is, the innovation that we are coming to the stage with, that we want to achieve this. So this year, each of the counties, Pastor, you have your earth-moving machine stationed there.
For road maintenance and
we have, yes, Nimba, Grand Jide, Bomi, Sino, all of the counties will have its own designated machine for the maintenance of the roads within the counties. I mean, this is a very small start, but we are very intentional with the work that we do, and we are passionate about making impact.
Mm.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. So that means, is the road fund going to purchase the machines donated? Is it going to be a donation or?
So the Ministry of Public Works will make the request
Okay.
to us. They will do their procurement process, because that's how it works. So they gave out the contracts. We, review it,
Mm-hmm.
look at all of the issue, and make sure that they are compliant as per the laws.
Yeah.
And then we make the final payment to the contractor. So we receive the request, but these are the things that
But you already
we are
welcome the
looking.
idea.
Yes, these are the things that we are looking at, and we are intentional, about that. In addition to what I have done,
Mm.
and mind you, I have been in this role since August of last year. What we have done, I just told you that on average we have around $20 to $26 million that we generate a year. This year we were able to sit down with a technician and look at all of the leakages in our revenue, and to put mechanism in place through our recommendation to the board
Mm.
that listen to us, and they had an informed decision, and they implemented our recommendation to them.
Mm.
So we have our revenue envelope now tightened. So the road fund now has moved from a generation of about 26 million a year to 42 million a year.
Mm.
So we are talking about almost 50 or a little over that. We kind of double, the amount.
That is because you've closed the loopholes.
Yes, we have done some policy to tighten the revenue generation component, and we are intentional. We are coming for our funds.
So what sort of extra benefit does that give to the work you do, and also road and infrastructure development, if you increase the generation of fund from the revenue?
What that does for us, there was a study done, I think sometime in 2015 or 16 by the World Bank, that gave us an analysis of needing a little over about $3 to $4 billion to connect all of the city capitals. And when we did a study on our road user charges, we realized that we have a little over 11,000 kilometers of roads that are unpaved.
Mm.
And if we are doing the estimate of about 1 million, 1.5 million per kilometer, it can give you an idea of how much money we need to actually invest into the road sector. So by us tightening the loopholes and the leakages of revenue, it means that the government will have more money to do more roads. And as we do more roads, we have more economic activities going into those communities. For example, if you look around, and if you're being very honest with yourself, you see around you that a lot of new communities are opening, because roads are economic drivers. When you have a road in a place, then you have a lot of economic activities going on. People put schools, people put hospitals, people move, build their houses, and all of these things.
A lot of people say, well, I mean, the work you do, you basically fund these projects, but the credit is not public. Do you want to take public credit for some of the things you do? I mean, the road fund, now you as an individual, let's say for example, if the road from ELW Junction to Dubo Road is paved, everything, then we also indicate on the billboard that fund generated by the National Road Fund, and all those kinds of things. Maybe I give a little bit of motivation, for the management at the road fund. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you are saying, but you see, credit is given to the Liberian people.
Okay.
Because if the Liberian people refuse to pay the fuel levy, if they refuse to buy petroleum products, if they refuse to adhere to the vehicle registration, driver's license, if they refuse to do all of these things that enable us to generate revenue, we wouldn't have anything. So all of the credit go to our dynamic and resilient Liberians.
Mm.
In addition to the management team, I will tell you for a fact, Fafli, um, the Liberia Road Fund has, you know, exceptional, exceptional young people. The capacity that we have there, what we have developed it into.
Mm.
Someone will say, oh, fancy woman or man cannot say their bony is rotting. But, coming as the role fund manager, I say we have some of the smartest Liberian working at the National Role Fund. And they have worked so hard. And it all comes with the leadership. They are working hard. We are appreciating them. And there is a clear path for growth and development. So we are getting excellent results, all of them in the short period of time. These are the things that we were able to do within a little under a year.
Mm.
Yeah, so that speaks volume.
Okay, you're listening to the Super Morning Show on ELBC Radio this morning. My guest is Madam Joseta Neufville Wento. She's the manager of the National Road Fund. We're trying to put the road fund under the spotlight. You do extremely well with making these radio appearances. A lot of people don't know what you do, but you do a lot of things. And I think because a lot of people will tend to focus on you because they should see you as an integrated institution because of the kind of money you manage, the money you raise, the money you generate, how you manage it, how you make an allocation to these projects. And at the end of the day, if you lag with the supporting of these projects, now the overall arrest agenda that focuses on infrastructure will obviously stall to some extent.
Definitely, it will.
Yeah.
Last year we had a serious bottleneck. What was forecasted was not actually generated.
Mm.
And that strangulated a lot of the contractors. So moving into this year, we have some planned meetings to have a conversation with the contractors. Already the Minister of Public Works is having that conversation, and they are looking at some contracts, renegotiating and arranging and sorting things out with the contractor because it's frustrating. If you go and do a business, you expect that when you have completed to generate a dollar and you can't, and mind you, you have indebted yourself all kinds of ways. So we had that serious bottleneck due to the lack of funds, and that affected a lot of the projects. So when we did our assessment, we are also planning in the next few weeks that we'll do a surveillance of all of the projects that we have on book to just go around and look at the different projects and the contractors that are there to see who is mobilized, who have demobilized, how is the project looking and stuff to inform us because we are having a statistic database. We have a statistic database of all of the roles work, but we want to update that. So with once the funds start being strangulated or once it start being politicized, then it limits the work that we are supposed to do. And I would just like to add this, a lot of people will be thinking, but how can my road get on, to have maintenance? How can my road be included, into this whole construction thing because I want my road to be fixed? So it was in 2019, we did something called the Road Data Inventory Survey. What that does is we went all across the country and we register all of the roads and classify them. And that information is put into a system. That system is called the HDM4 system. It's at the Ministry of Public Works in the road maintenance department. So the plan that we have over the 5 years, it is from the statistics that come from that system. So this is why when you hear us saying the road fund should be non-politicized, we don't want, a certain big shot to come up and say, I am a big shot. You must do my road because I am a big shot. The decisions that we make in terms of our road maintenance should be data driven. We started off with the process some part of last year
And sometimes
that came to a
sometimes a level of the wisdom of you, the managers, because for sure you know which roads are more economical or bring more economic gains to the country, and no politician will tell you because I'm the senator of this county, so come and do my road. When you know that the road will not bring any economic gains to the country.
Yes. So, in as much as we are focusing on the data driven process, we also understand that some rules have political implications. Some rules also have social implications, and some rules have economic implications. So it depends. We look at all of these things to analyze, because in the software, you have to put certain variables in. This is what I want, this, that. And once you set the variables, then all of the survey and the data that has been in that, it will pop up the road for yourself.
And you make
Those
the
roads
judgment.
will pop up, and then we'll have the engineers again to look at it more critically. But what this system does for us, it gives us a baseline cost. What is it going to cost for us to do a road from, say, Sino to Grangier to Toaston, or from Grangier to Bon County, the corridor, the number of kilometers, how many waterways, how many culverts needed, how many bridges needed. That's what this system does. And we are working very hard with the board to ensure that we revert to that system and we uphold the standards that are being recommended to us.
Okay, just before we take calls, Madam Wento, let's look at your appointment to the Executive Board Committee of the Africa Road Maintenance Fund Association. I wonder your appointment and chair of the West Africa Focus Group, whether it has any, impact whatsoever. What sort of leverage, does that have? Have on road maintenance and road management as per the work of the National Road Fund. Of course, it happened in Abidjan.
Yes, yes. So last week we convened 35 of us, 35 of us road fund managers, and French Director General and Chief Executive Officer. They're all heads of the road fund, just different nomenclature. We convened to discuss the affairs of road funds. And we realized that some of the issues that we have with our road fund are also faced with other road funds in terms of the political interference. Some road funds are doing very well. Liberia, currently we are at first generation, and that means we have heavy government interference. For example, our entire board is made of government officials. There's no
civil society, for example.
Precisely. So other road funds have they operate as a corporation independent from government, and they have the criteria set to recruit the board, and the board has a time frame to serve. So because those road funds has been able to transition from government to an independent body, they work as a corporation, as an independent body, generating funds and funding roads and doing emergency works. So we ascribe to that growth and development in the fund. So coming back to what we did in Cote d'Ivoire, right? As we gather, we also realize that there are a lot of countries that have not yet been included in the road fund. It's either because they don't have a road fund, it has not been established, or they have it, but there is serious suppression, or interference from the government. So the president of AFRAM decided that we are going to set up a committee to look into the membership fees. We're going to set up a committee to look into, bringing on new members so that all across Africa there is a standard, for all of the role funds, how they should work, how they should operate. That would be set up in that meeting. And so we were fortunate. Mind you, Africa has been divided into focus group. We got the Central African Focal Group, the East African Focal Group, the South African Focus Group, and
The
the
West.
West and North African Focus Group. And for the West African Focus Group, we have 12 countries.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the 12 countries, Liberia was selected, to spearhead the entire committee, the executive committee, to look into the membership fees and come back with strategy and policy, and basically just tell them what we need to do, to get this achieved. And it was a proud moment, not just for me but for Liberia as a whole, to send a young person.
Mm-hmm.
I am the youngest road fund manager in Africa. And to have, been opportune to sit in that meeting and make a really impactful comment and suggestion and recommendation leading to my appointment, it speaks a lot of volume that Liberia do have, young and talented people outside of the politics, outside of the propaganda. Liberia is making headways. In addition to that, we also had a situation with one of the countries sending in a proposal to be a member of two of the focal group because of the demographical location.
But have they
And
adopted the role fund model? If they've adopted, because I guess to be a member is for you to adopt the model of role fund.
Yes. So to become a member, you make an application, you express your interest, and then we give all of the requirements on what is required of you as a country, as a role fund, and then that is evaluated through another committee, and we did that in 2019.
Okay.
So again, I was also appointed to evaluate that country. I was appointed on the second board, to evaluate the proposal that is coming from that country and determine and advise the president of AFRAM on whether or not that country should sit in two houses. So, we were really active. We in a Liberian way, we show ourselves, and we were recognized for the quality of output that we displayed during that meeting.
And I think one briefly will take us. I think one of the reasons why you're motivated to form part of that group is that there might be some things working for country. Let's say, for example, Ghana is doing something extraordinary. Maybe you can get that model and apply it and see how it can help with boosting revenue generation specifically for role fund.
Yes, we do a lot of knowledge sharing. Yes,
Yeah.
we do a lot of that. And when we went with the Minister of Public Works, who was the board chair, the transition into a new government, and we went with a representative from the House.
Okay.
So it was very important for us to take these people on board so that they understand what is going on at that level. So when we are speaking about those things that we have to achieve, because they are resolution and each role fund is charged with that responsibility, they understand it already, and they can also help us to push forth, some of the ideas and recommendations that we are coming forth with.
Okay, so let's take course. You're listening to the Super Morning Show. My name is Vafli Kamara, and this morning I have with me as my guest, Madam Joseta Neufville Wento, Manager, National Road Fund. Let's hear from this person. Call us on 077-058-1886. Good morning.
Good morning, Vafli, and good morning to Madam Wento.
Yeah, go
It's
ahead.
a pleasure being on your platform this morning. The name is Ellis S. Kuna, chairperson for the intellectual class of things. My attention is drawn to a few things this morning. Madam Wento lay out all of the different challenges faced by the growth fund. And particularly, I want to know from their angle, what are they doing in order to avoid this political interference for the the role form to be a real corporation so that they can work independently? What are they doing in that manner?
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kamara.
Yes.
My name is Ibrahim Balu, and I call from the Capitol building.
Yeah, let's hear you quickly.
Vavi, I really want to ask Madam Wento few questions.
Just make it quick.
Yeah, you spoke on. She spoke on the rule for is independent, but the question I want to ask Madam Wento went with the public work minister, some people from the office, and the House of Representatives member. In the rule form document says the finance minister, the Ministry of Finance should be represented. She never took anyone from the Ministry of Finance. That was one, and she was in error. Two, Madam Wento gave a contract to a representative that she went with for that program in Africa Coast. She gave contract to that man.
Who the man? What's the name of the man?
Representative Collins, the former public work minister brother-in-law.
Do you have evidence?
Evidence. I have all documents, and not just that. Mr. Kamara, if you give me the
we have so many. We have so many people on the line. I think she will address herself to what you're saying. Call us on 0770581886. Let's hear from this person. Morning.
Good morning, Madam Wento.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just one or two questions I want to ask Madam Wento. Accordingly, she said during her time, she has been trying to close the loopholes and leakages. The first thing, did she miss the Minister Nipan after his death? And does she know anything about it?
If she knows anything about the late public work minister's death?
Yes.
What kind of question is that?
Responsible. I mean, the thing here is that we are public.
No, but
we hear a lot of
it's quite different from the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't ask that kind of question. Yeah, it's very very unpleasant to ask that question. Please, we can take one or two calls. Call us on 0770581886, 0770581886, and we can go back to our guests to address the concerns, your concerns. Call us on 0770581886, so we can take this call and go back to our guests. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Mambi, and I do call you from Rehab Bell.
Yeah.
Firstly, I want to take the time to appreciate my boss in studio. Not just my boss, but she's a young woman who is very much innovative in her extended stay at the Road Fund for a lot of changes where one like me I did benefit. Just part of engagement with Road Fund in the history of Labrador, this is the first time for a young lady, to establish a program where close to 30 young guys benefited from the internship program. If we're getting started monthly, this shows that she's a young woman with innovation. And not just that, I'm also one of the beneficiaries with respect to what she talked about 2019 when we went to do the goal assessment. I was the youngest teacher on that program, and I was first time with 3 senior engineers in my country.
Okay.
So when she spoke up, I just pray that she can feed or character so that she can make a lot of young people to benefit from the country, more especially when it comes to the digital movement. Thank you very much. And
Thank you very much. We can take a call and go back to our guests. 770581886. Good morning.
Making my point, you just off me.
Yeah, you are not making. You ask very unpleasant question about somebody.
I wasn't the guy that asked about somebody dead. I won't go that route. I was asking Madam Wento performing, and I said something, and you're asking for documents, and
No, she will address herself to that. I think she will address herself to that. Good morning.
Good morning, my dear brother. How are you doing?
I'm fine. What's your name?
This is James Banyasina, and I'm calling from Bombay County.
Yeah, let's hear you.
There are a few things I want to ask our mistress. One is that why
Are you to report? Because I understood all of our explanation. But we are now a board that constitutes that legal entity. Your responsibility, are you to report to the finance minister, or you are under obligation just to report to the public works minister, Mr. Gabe?
Okay, thank you very much. So, Madam Wento, you can just respond to some of these concerns. And I mean, personally, I would urge you not to respond to the other guy who asked about one's death. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just start with the last caller. I hope you are listening. Like I stated before, the board constitutes of those statutory members. The Minister of Finance is my supervisor. So everything that I do in terms of my reporting is done directly to him, who, later on informs the board on the decision. So I report to the Minister of Finance. Okay. And also the Minister of Public Works is the chair of the board. Okay. On the person who asked about the revenue leakages, right? We realized, for example, like in the last budget law, it stated that the road fund should collect 30 cents on a petroleum gallon that is imported. All right. And we realized that 25 cents were collected. Okay. And not the 30 cents. So this year, what we did was we worked with the board. We had a board meeting and the board resolved that it's going to go back to 30 cents. And there was a communication sent to CG Jala to effect this decision. And currently, we are collecting at 30 cents. So that was one of the ways we used to close the leakage. The second one was duty free. Okay. A certain concessionaire company, mining company or something, had some duty free on petroleum products. And we realized instead of them paying the accepted amount, which is like the 30 cents, I think they were paying just about 5 cents, and we realized over the period of their import, we saw a jump in the number of petroleum products that they were importing because their taxes, their fuel level was very low. So we talked to the legislators and we kind of revised that and tightened it. So we are looking at generating at least an additional 7 million just from that process. Okay. And those were some of the issues, as well as, right now we are remobilizing to work with the petroleum importers, especially those who owe the road fund money. We want them to start paying, as per the stipulations that were set up. So we are looking at that. About the death of the late Minister Yempa, I have to comment. Minister Yempa was my mentor. I don't have anything to do with his death. I don't know anything about his death. And I had already left the Ministry of Public Works as working as his chief of staff. I was already at the road fund, working in the road fund when that occurred. So I don't know what happened there. What is the road fund doing for independence? For our independence, the first thing we're doing, we are rolling out from the funds. Instead of it going to a consolidated account, we wanted to come straight to road fund account. That's one of the things. It's already a board resolution that the Minister of Finance, in fact, he recommended that moving forward, road fund money will be deposited into road fund account. Okay. And we have also drafted an act to amend the process. The last quarter on the issue of the finance minister being represented at the event, we did a communication to the board, all of the board, and we informed them of this activity and for them to send a representation. And the minister himself, Minister Giddens, was the one representing the board. Okay. So thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much. Hope to do this regularly. What I want to.
Thank you so much for having me, Vafli, and thank you, Liberian people, for your input. Thank you very much.
Okay, so she's Madam Joseta Neufville Wento, manager of the National Road Fund. My name is Vafli Kamara. Join the station tomorrow morning for another presentation of the Super Morning Show. Bye-bye.